Hey there, commercial construction coffee talk fans. Thanks for chiming in. My name's David Corson. I'm your host. I'm also the publisher and editor of Commercial Construction Renovation magazine. This is what it used to look like when we used to print it. I'm breaking out the icon. This is March, April 2020. Who do I have on? I have JT Norville, co-founder, managing partner of Midas, and Dave Roberts. He's a co-founder too with Midas Hospitality. They're hoteliers, constructors. They do a bunch of stuff. Anyway, thanks for gracing the cover. Another good-looking issue. This one was, let's see, 148 pages. Oh, wow. Look at me. Check me out. I'm a contractor. I'm redoing my deck right during March of 2020 when everything got kaput. I had to keep myself busy. So I got my tools out and got my camo on, and, you know, it's I'm looking pretty dapper there. So anyway, but always like grabbing the issue. You know, we went 100% digital in August of 2021. We had White Castle VP Construction, the largest facility that they built. And that was the last one we printed and haven't looked back since. Have millions of people hitting our site every month, consuming content. Last year we had about, I don't know, 29 million people. This year we're on pace for that same gig. But of course, Google, they changed their algorithms. And so now we've got to, deal with the new rules and regulations that they do. And they don't tell you these things until you're gone. But anyway, you got to roll with the punches. That's just the way technology is. But we're still kicking it. I mean, I'm on pace for another 2 million plus, again this month. So anyway, it's been a wild ride, In the last year, I've taken 3 boot camp digital classes, and I'm getting my digital agency put together. And you guys are going to see a bunch of stuff coming up on my website and all this stuff. It's going to be mind blowing. So enjoy it as I start showing some things that I've learned in class. So anyway, I hope everybody's having a great week. Got the weekend coming up, then Labor Day weekend next weekend, and here comes fall. And before you know it, you're going to have Halloween, Thanksgiving, and then Hanukkah, Christmas, and everything else in between. And year's going to be over. And all of a sudden, we're going to have to do it all over again in 2024. So it'll be here before you know it. I can't believe it's almost the end of August. It feels like yesterday. It was just January 1st. I was starting this crazy year off. But anyway, beautiful day out in Atlanta here. Another hot, steamy dog days of summer. Not a cloud in the sky. I swear, a couple weeks ago, it rained every day. Now I haven't seen rain in about a week. But the lake is still full. It's down at like 1068. We're only a couple feet below down, full pool. But we like to get a little rain because we like to keep the lake full, And I know my wife wants her flowers, kept full so we don't have to water them. We like Mother Nature doing it. So anyway, quiet, everything's quiet now, but sports is coming. NFL is going to start. PLL, Professional Lacrosse League, still, cruising right along. I got my old man Lax League tournament coming up. Got my little garb on here today. And the Braves are still killing it, still in first place. So lots of stuff going on there. And before you know it, the NHL is going to be back on the ice and the b-ball players back on the hardwood. And it's anybody's game, who's going to win, The playoffs come, you got to be healthy and you got to have momentum. And that's the name of the game. So it doesn't really matter what your record is, but when the second season starts, everything is notched up a level because there's pride, bragging rights, and money involved. So to all those teams out there, they're trying to make the playoffs, whether it's the World Series or what have you, the PLL championship, good luck. So with that said, got an awesome gentleman. He's actually on vacation on the Outer Banks in North Carolina, but his name is Moustafa Moursy, and he's the president of Push Analytics, which is out of Northeast up in Jersey. And Moustafa, thank you for taking time out from the beach and hanging out with your family. Say hello to our audience out there in commercial construction.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah.
How's it going?
Hey, we appreciate it. And the reason why I had Moustafa on, listen, his publicist reached out. Once again, that's how you get on here. You send me something, I look at it, I feel interested. And the reason why I had Moustafa on, because, he's a data guy too. And he takes data and he helps companies manipulate it and, depending on what type of the firm, and kind of be able to help them scale their business in the right direction. And, scaling, that's like the big pitch term these days, and, making your company more effective, more efficient, more profitable. And with technology at warp speed. And I can say that because everything I've learned in the last probably 6 months with my AI class, or my TikTok or clipping and Mind Journey and all this stuff, it's all going to be obsolete because something else is going to come out. But at least I'll know how to do click push button 101 to click, figure out everything out. So it's crazy. So that's why I had Moustafa on here. And that's what we're going to talk. We're going to talk data. I'm a data guy. I'm addicted to it. I can't get enough of it. So, Moustafa, the way this is going to work, we do our episode, our interviews in 3 parts. You're going to tell your story, where you grew up, where you went to school, how you ended up at Push Analytics. Then we'll talk about the last 3 years, kind of how you weathered the roller coaster, any new products or services that you have coming out. And then you'll leave one positive thought or phrase and your contact info with our audience out there on Commercial Construction Coffee Talk. So with that said, the floor is yours. Tell us your story.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, great. Thanks for having me, David. I'm really excited to be here today. And I always feel at home when I'm talking on anything construction related, because that's where I worked for a long time, in the construction industry, and it's near and dear to me. I think it's a very cool industry. It's a very there's a lot of opportunity in the industry. There's a lot of potential, and it's very interesting, kind of sitting at this angle, because I'm able to look at it from both sides, right? Construction is like a cool, huge industry that if you're not in construction, you don't understand anything about construction, which is something like I kind of find out. Even when I started, in construction right out of college, up until I started my job, I didn't even know what I was going to be doing. Even when even first month, I still didn't know what I was going to be doing. So it's like a very unique industry. So a lot of times people don't speak the language of the construction industry, and they're not able to understand that and use some of the stuff from outside in. So me being, running a digital agency where we look at the data, we look at the numbers, we help with ads, we help with process and understanding that. I got to just say, there's a lot of opportunity done in construction business for a lot of things to be done. Improvements on process, improvements on data, improvements on the way things are marketed that are not quite done yet because nobody's able to really speak those 2 languages. So I hope at some point to be able to bridge that. But so on me, I mean, I have a that's kind of like some of the background. I have a lot of B2B experience, a lot of B2B sales experience, like sales leadership experience. And then also I was very interested in data and data analytics, and just being able to like use data and leverage it to be able to drive business decisions, and one thing's led to another. And now, I run a digital agency where we're doing a lot of that. And always staying current, obviously, because like you said, things are changing constantly. So always advising our clients, helping them stay current, helping them improve their processes. That we know what works, what doesn't. I know what works, what doesn't. From seeing it on the corporate end, seeing it on the small mini business end, seeing it on the different clients we help send, what works and what doesn't, and how do you get that all lined up. And there's really 2 core things, right? Process and data, and those 2 things work hand in hand together to help you kind of run your business. So that's a quick intro.
What kind of construction did you do when you got out of school? Were you on a site doing actual construction, or what were you doing there?
So I worked for a manufacturer, pretty large manufacturer. I mean, you can look me up and you'll see my resume. But I looked for a manufacturer, and I had different roles. I mean, at some point I was in sales for a long period of time. Was outside sales with different types of clients. So I did go on job sites and helped, and it was cool. Because one of the things I knew, I studied engineering. One of the things I knew when I was in college was I liked the engineering, I liked the technical thing, and I always had a knack for the technical, but also the business side at the same time. So I was always like my thing, having both. Usually people are one or the other. I just have both equally. So I liked engineering, but I was like, I want stuff that I have to think about, but at the same time, I don't want to just sit on a desk all day and do AutoCAD or something. So one of the people I looked up to, who was like a few years older than me, I was like, so what'd you end up doing when you graduated? He's like, I'm a sales engineer. I'm like, what is that? And he's like, well, I'm like a salesperson and also an engineer, and like we do this. And I was like, that's really cool. So that's how I knew that that's what I wanted to do. And that's I ended up going for like a good program that they had like a training program that like really helped you learn basics, and like and I did that for a while amongst other roles. But so I worked for the manufacturer, though I had different roles, and it was a big part of there's a lot of technical aspects involved. Right? It's a very complex sale. You have, you're working with the contractors, kind of working the job. There's distributors involved in the middle. Then you have the general contractor. You have the designer. I mean, you guys know, right? So there's a lot of different things involved. So, but I did that for a while and have a very was very very good at it. And then had different roles kind of across the company, and then ended up here.
So how did you come up with the push analytics gig? I mean, how did that happen?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of contacts, and again, I was really big on the data side, and I was very good at that, and I have a lot of the B2B and the process experience already, and I studied data aspect, and then I have partners that you could say kind of like brought me into this, and one thing led to another, and it's a lot of people that I've known historically from the past, and they needed somebody that can do like the process aspect of things in data. My partner's like really good at like the ads and stuff like that, but didn't really know how to like, hey, like bring things together in like a systemic way to have like streamlined processes to be able to do that. So it's kind of born out of that, and then it evolved, and then initially we weren't like doing process consulting for others, but then it evolved. We're doing that. We're a top tier like CRM implementer. Like for example, we work with HubSpot amongst others, but with HubSpot, we're in the top 10%, like platinum tier partners. So it evolved from there, but
Mm-hmm. Hey, listen, it's always good to network, because always someone needs, it's like, look, I'm an athlete. So I always like talking to sports guys, because, it's all about planning, trying to, plan for the other team. You know what's going to happen. Maybe one of their guys gets hurt and your whole plan's got to get scrapped, or they get a new player on the roster, and everything you plan went out the window. So you got to be flexible, but you also have to look at data. You look at video, you look at stats, you look at percentages, you look at all of those things, and it goes across with business as well. So timing in business is everything. And here you are today, push analytics, with, some large brands and so forth. I went to the site, and you got some big brands that are listed up there that you're doing work with. So, and information is knowledge, but information is power too. So it's what you do with it, and how quickly you can do it and make the right decision with it can, streamline a lot of stuff. I mean, over the last year with my classes that I've done, I've learned so much that I'm just blown away of how much that I've learned about. I thought I knew a lot about my business. I've been a publisher for almost 25 years, but, and I'm from a construction family. My family's in demolition since 1888. It's like fifth, sixth generation.
Wow.
Outside of Philadelphia. So, when I was growing up, I grew up in the scrapyard playing on the cranes, and I had an erector set, and I did all that stuff. Now my cousins are running the business. We were all born the same month. And, but everything I learned there, shoveling asbestos, laying railroad tracks, welding, sheet metal. I mean, I can go down the whole list, everything that I did there. I'm a manufacturer. I'm actually a constructor. I build this thing every month. I used to do it with paper, ink, editorial, and so forth. Now I do it digitally, but I'm still doing the same process. But with the data that's involved, with stats and everything else, and all the things that I've learned, it's just unbelievable what's going on with technology. And, with AI being the rage right now. And listen, a lot of people think AI just came out. AI's been around for a while. Just no one really knew about it. And, at least the pioneers. And it's going to change the way everything's done. I don't care if it's in construction, HR, just everything is going to change with AI. And I had a conversation with one of my podcasters a couple months back, and I said, remember this date, whatever, June, whatever. I said, in 5 years, you call me and tell me what restaurants look like, and he laughed, but I said, hey, I'm going to call you on it. I'm still going to be around as long as I have glass, I'm going to arthritis. I'll be doing my magazine. So anyway, it's amazing. And so let's talk about the last 3 years of the roller coaster. So March 2020 comes around, just like my picture, hey, shut down. I decided I was going to redo my deck myself and my son. And, I was laughing. He goes, hey, Dad, why aren't you a contractor? I'm like, I came from a constructor family, but, I'm a publisher, but I'm a builder still. So anyway, everything got shut down. People thought it was going to be a couple of weeks. Here we are 3 years later. And, it's still lingering. I just saw yesterday that they're making the college students here in Atlanta wear masks. I'm like, oh my God, I mean, please, anyway, it's still around. And, but we've weathered the storm. If you're all sitting out there watching this and listening to it and you're still standing, congratulations, you made it through. And we're definitely out of the tunnel. And I'm always looking forward. I can't change what happened in the past. I just know that I learned a lot about my business. I learned that there's more to work than life, and that data is king. And there's 8 billion people on the web, and there's so much you can do reaching out to those people, making connections, and you never know where your next sale is going to come from. So talk about how your firm, weathered the storm over the last 3 years, and any new like services and products that our listeners out there in commercial construction coffee talk might find of value.
So yeah, I want to talk. That's a really good segue. I want to talk about kind of some in general of how that roller coaster that you say like kind of exposed certain things and showed certain things. So I think it really showed and exposed a lot of weaknesses and opportunities for a lot of different types of businesses, right? So if you were in manufacturing, for example, and you had massive supply chain issues, right? It's because many manufacturers are like, we're gonna build everything out of like, 2 factories, and then whatever, right? And then they don't have any redundancy. Everything is just in time. Everything's whatever, and then all of a sudden you have supply chain issues that have cascaded and have cascaded for years. I mean, if you're in construction, you're probably still feeling it. Like there's certain things that you, even till today, certain things that you get, the lead times are like extraordinarily much longer than they were 5 years ago, right? So, and that's, by the way, that's actually partially a process issue, right? Which is like, how did the process not account for this, not account for having some level of redundancy, not account for like, how do you get back on your feet when things kind of fall through the cracks, right? So it's a big process thing. And also, partially, the way is actually to look at the data, right? To have the data and to have the right data and to have it accessible and available kind of at your fingertips, and to be able to like run different scenarios on it, right? I mean, I'm sure business leaders kind of came out later and they're like, how do we not foresee this? If somebody had more resilient supply chains than somebody else, for example, a little bit more redundancy, I mean, they could have just became complete kingmaker, in the past like 3 years, right? In the space, right? When everybody else is pushing their lead times out by like months, and you're not, but everybody had the same issues, right? So nobody was like that. So I think that's like a huge thing that you can kind of see. That's quite a one aspect of it on the process breakdown, but the other aspect of it that we saw is how important is it for businesses to have and have a digital presence, and nobody questions it now. I think it's understood more now after everything that's happened. But even up until that point, some people were still kind of questioning whether they should have a digital presence or invest in it. I mean, everybody had like a basic digital presence, right? But invest in it and do things digitally, and the answer is a resounding yes. I mean, you have to have some sort of digital presence to be able to kind of exist nowadays. And if you exist without that, then you're putting a lot of opportunity, leaving that out on the table, that you're not taking advantage of. And it's more than just, hey, I have a website or a market. I mean, it's like that if you're like a digitally enabled company, like, can I come to your website? And is there a place for me to fill out and request, like, let's say you're like a residential contractor, is there a place for me to fill out and request a quote? Can I do that online? Or do I have to go through like 5 different phone calls, and like by the end of it, I'm sick of it. I don't want to do it anymore. I'm used to buying everything on Amazon, right? Can I go to your website, and is there a easy way for me to request a quote or get a quote? Can I come and easily contact somebody? Do you have maybe a chat feature on your website that, maybe I can get some basic advice and then transfers me to somebody, for example? I'm not saying you have to have that, but it's just having that digital customer journey enabled is like really key. It's not a matter of like, I have a website and we post on social media. It's a matter of like, it's more holistic than that. It's like, let's look at the entire customer journey. Especially again with something like construction, it's a longer journey. I'm not buying, a, a little toy on Amazon where I'm gonna just make an impulse purchase. I mean, if you're even doing something like changing your roof, you're gonna shop around. You're gonna shop around. You're gonna ask for advice. It's gonna be like a lot of different steps before you get to the point where you buy. And we need to enable them at every single step of the way, so that they have a buying experience that works with what they're used to, customers are used to, and how they work, and give them a good experience with a good product. So I think that's a very big thing that came out of that. That if people know again that they need to be digital, but it's that deep customer journey that you need to enable at every step of the way. And when you do that, by the way, the good thing is if you have that, then you have a lot of data points too that then you can use to further improve. So if we start having, a full digital customer experience, then we know like, hey, we have this many people that requested a quote. We got like 10,000 people requested a quote in the past, whatever, 6 months. But then after that, only 5,000 people were able to get on the phone with sales. So 5,000 of them dropped off. So then we kind of know, like, how do we improve that 5,000 that dropped off? Maybe do we market to them more? Do we send them emails, whatever? And then you go further down the line. We ended up with, 500 installations that we did. And then you see like where people are falling off and you can make improvements throughout. But you have data, if you have it set up right, you have data at your fingertips, you're able to look and see and drive those improvements. I mean, that's really key. That's how to truly build something that works, really well today. So
Hey, listen, I'm living everything you just said. I mean, I took a 12-week boot camp on funnels, get responders, click magic, clap. I mean, I learned all that. Put my first online, business. But I had a digital magazine forever. I just ignored it. It was like my stepson. Hey, look, having stepchildren is great. Okay, nothing against them, but I had a ton of content. So when the shutdown happened, I kind of had to, I don't like using the word pivot because everybody used it, but, I put out the issue. I was fighting with my printer. I'm like, half my circulation in construction's furloughed. Their offices aren't open. I'm going to waste all this money printing this magazine. They're just going to get thrown in the trash by the post office. And so we put the issue out, and then I had a lot of sleepless nights in April. I was a print face-to-face guy. Everything was, was basically kaput. You couldn't fly, you couldn't do this, depending on what state you were in, was going to depending on how busy you were going to be, especially if you were in construction. And then we just said, hey, man, we've got all this content. Let's just go digital. And so we did, and we still did a little small press run for people that, had articles, whatever. But then after a year, I was like, I don't even need it. But I never had 2 million people a month hitting my website, because people weren't on the web that they were. Now, as they went over the last 3 years, being hybrid, working at the home, everybody was on the web, just like we are right now. Like people say, oh, I'm sick of Zoom. Zoom has changed everything. You don't have, why would you go and drive 3 hours to go look at a curb that need to be fixed when you can just do it online, or you can pick and choose where you want to go if you need to do those face-to-face meetings. And Zoom's not going anywhere, or Teams, or whatever platform that you're working on. I mean, this has just been unbelievable. I had a project management firm tell me, he goes, in one day I was in Kuwait, Africa, Canada, South America. I ended up in New York doing a couple site visits. If I did that before, 2020, March of 2020, that would have taken me like 3 weeks. I did that all in a day, So businesses, just moving a million miles a second. And, construction, especially if you're an essential business, it didn't stop. I'm here in Georgia. We were one of the first states that opened up. We weren't really even closed anyway. I had 3 or 4 projects that I was looking at. There was a multifamily going up. There was a senior living center. They were building a new fire station. And I forget what else they were doing down the street. But I was watching it all go up, and they put all the protocols in place. But if you were in a state that had more regulations, like if you were doing a bathroom renovation and you had to be close in, and they said, oh, that was probably going to go kaput. But if you were out on a federal highway project where it was nice and open, you probably got that project done. So it really depended on where you were in the country and how the state regulations were going to affect how you were going to go. Just like this morning before you came on, I don't watch the news anymore. I watch YouTube. I have my people, my sources that I like to read. But the Panama Canal, okay, they have 2 big reservoirs that put all the water into those locks to get these huge ships in. And right now, they're running out of water, and they have like 150 ships that they can't get through the canal, and they're making them unload cargo, or they have to go around South America to come around. And it's affecting the supply shortage, especially if there's some of those product is on some of those containers on the ships. What are you going to do? You got to wait for it, and that could slow your project down. So it, all these little things, and you can't control it. You just have to roll with the punches. So, if you've got product on those ships or in the containers, you're basically, it's out of your control. So you have to, be flexible and be able to use data and be able to find maybe someone that can replace that stuff. And, I mean, in construction, especially like in retail, Everything is backed up from when the opening of the new location. The circulars are printed, and then they back up your scheduling on how you're going to get that project finished. And if you've got stuff on ships and it's getting shipped in, or if you have a labor shortage or whatever, all those hindrances everybody had to deal with over the last 3.5 years. But I think people have weathered the storm, and they've kind of figured out, got new vendors in their stable and suppliers and so forth, that it's actually running fairly smoothly. But you're always going to have hiccups. It doesn't matter whether it's Mother Nature or labor shortage or whatever, skilled labor. It's all gonna affect the final outcome. But yeah, data, getting back to data, I thought I knew a lot, but I've taken 3 classes, and I've learned everything. And now I'm actually I'm putting everything together, and I'm gonna start blowing some people away when they see my site. They're like, hey, how'd you do that? And I'm like, how'd you do that? And listen, I've left a lot of money on the table, because just like you said, 5,000 names, and then maybe you get 500 and whatever. But you can actually take those other clients that you thought you lost. They're called reactivations. You can go back and you can pick up some of those people. So it's an amazing thing, technology, and manipulating it so you can make your process so much smoother, and just concentrate on actually making sales. So when I gave up my magazine, it was dicey. I was a print face-to-face guy forever. And when I made that switch to digital, God, it was like the scariest thing that I ever did. But I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go for it, roll the dice, and here I am. And I never expected. I've gone over 3 million people hitting the site twice in the last year. Once in November of 2022. In April, I had 3.5 million. And we've actually put software on our website, so we got rid of all the bots that hit your site every day. Okay. The minute you put your website up on the web, you're a global company. It doesn't matter if you're in Muskogee, Oklahoma, or Hong Kong, or in Atlanta, Georgia. The bottom line is, you put a site on the site, you're a global company. And the minute you put it on there are these guys, these crawlers, these robots, they're just freaking attacking you. And you can't get rid of them. And so when people tell you, oh, I've got so many hits on the stats, I'm like, yeah, but how many robots are there? It's kind of like Twitter. How many of those were fake accounts? So we put the security software on there, and it knocks it all out. And you'd be amazed at like how many these things are out there in all these different countries. I can look at them all, and I blocked them all. But now I know my stats are actually, hey, these are real people that are freaking coming to my site, and they're finding me through Google. 90% of them, they don't go to my homepage. They find me on Google. They'll type in a thing. Hey, I want to learn about concrete repair, and I've got a piece of content on concrete repair on page 1, and boom, they come through the back end of my site, and then they start getting into my house. I call it my house. They come through the back door, and then looking through my closets, and oh, you got a magazine, oh, you do a podcast, oh, you've got events, you do this and that, and then they become unique users, and then they don't even have to go Google. They just come and I tell people, you should come to my site once a week or a couple of weeks a month and just go through what we've posted. You'll find leads on there, or customers to go after, whatever you're selling. And it's just one of those things. And so talking to a data guy, it's awesome, because process, B2B, helping people. And then when they scale their business, it's like, oh my God, I wish I would have done this, years ago. But, years ago, we didn't even know really if this was even available. That's what the whole roller coaster kind of did to a lot of people. But you have to be digital these days. This phone, okay, is the best tool that you can ever have in your hand. Okay, you have the world right here. 8 billion people could be on the web looking for you on there, and you can get messages. Oh, I just got a texting. I got this. Someone just hit my website. I mean, with the right software that you're using or the platform. I mean, having a phone, and listen, I make 10 phone calls a day. I pick up the phone because I don't want to send emails all day and text, but it's always good to have these phone calls with people, because it's just nice, whether it's Zoom, but I prefer making the phone call and getting them on there. So use your phone, learn how to use it, because it is your best tool that you can have. As far as a data guy or a digital guy, this phone is your best tool in your tool belt, as far as I'm concerned, along with your hammer and your knife and, whatever else you have in there. So, So, do you have any cool products that you're, coming out with and you're launching?
Yeah, I mean, well, before that, you said a lot of things that I want to comment. You said a lot of
Yeah,
good
yeah,
stuff
yeah. Go
there.
ahead.
Yeah, definitely want to comment there. So, I mean, I think one thing you said too is like, obviously driving all this with technology, and I want to really emphasize something, is that the best people who are making the best use of data in their process, they're actually leveraging technology, but there's two things. There's technology and then there's the human parts of your process as well, which are really important. A lot of people overlook that, right? So a lot of people just think, hey, data, 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 but then they forgot that there's a big, especially in a B2B business, it's a little bit different in B2C, but especially in a B2B business, which most construction businesses are, or they're, the operate similarly. Even if you're selling to like consumers, it still works like a B2B business. But anyway, especially in a B2B or service-based business, there's a big human element to the process and a big like business process side that doesn't actually is not directly tied to technology, just things that people need to do that need to be laid out in a way that's organized and efficient. Everybody understands so that you can see success. And again, I've seen this across the board. Even if you're in a really large organization, they might have certain deficiencies in the sales process where things fall between the cracks, right? So if you have a sales process and your salespeople are just maybe they get requests on the website and then they quote people, and then it's like, okay, what did you do? Like a month later, you're like, what happened? I don't know. But what do you mean you don't know? Well, that's it. I mean, I quoted them and I haven't heard back. Well, but did you follow up? No. Is there a process for you to follow up? Like, no, there isn't a process, right? So that's like a very, for example, small thing that a lot of people don't get right, right? Like, well, there should be some sort of process for them to follow up. It should be documented. It should be explained. And then whatever tool you're using, CRM, or whatever tool you're using, you have a certain designated place where they can kind of mark and see, okay, I sent this guy a quote. I need to follow up with these 50 guys. And then they can mark that they did follow up or didn't follow up. And you set up your tools to work with your process, right? So it's really, you want to have three things working together for kind of like the best results, right? You want to have your process, which enables you to get the right data, and use that data to drive continuous improvement. But you want the right technology, which enables you to drive that process, right? So you want all three things working together. I mean, if you have a really, really good process, but you're not using any technology, it's going to be really hard to keep up with that process and you won't have any data. If you have really good technology, but you don't have a good process, well, then that's just like having a tool, but you don't know what to do with the tool, right? I mean, you can have the best toolbox ever. It doesn't make you a great construction company, right? It's the fact that you know what to do with the tools and you're actually doing the things with the tools is what makes you good. And the tools really enable you. I mean, you could also be the best construction guy ever in whatever trade and you have no tools. It's very hard to get anything done, right? So you need all three things. And that's really, really key. And a lot of people overlook this. And you see it overlooked even at the large organizations. They overlook that there's a human element. So they're thinking we have all these fancy tools, that's going to take us to the moon. But like it's not, because you're missing the human part. Which is huge, right? And you need to do it in a way that they can understand, that the reps can understand, that whoever's on the front end can understand to use these tools to be able to actually put in the right information. Because there's a big human element in the service-based business of selling and talking to people. It's not like Amazon, where you know what, you don't really care about the person's phone number, or you're not going to ever call them. I mean, you're selling a $20 product online or on e-commerce or whatever, and you're never going to talk to them. They'll come in if they have an issue and return their product, and it's not like that. You're talking 5, 6, 7, 10, 100, 20, $1 million deals, whatever type of business you are. It's much different, and you need to account for that. And the other thing on data itself, this is another big misconception, is people will oftentimes kind of like talk data, 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 but you have to make sure of one thing. You actually have to be looking at the right data in the right context at the right time. And I have seen this happen again a lot, and it happens at the large organization level, actually somewhat frequently, right? Where somebody who doesn't have context but has data is looking at it and then driving decisions, but it's like, if you actually have context, they're like, what is going on? Like, did you even know that this is happening? It's like imagine you're looking at a data set 100 years from now in the future, and you look at stuff happening in like um, March 2020 or April 2020, and you start driving all these conclusions on that, but you don't have any context as to like what happened. It's not going to make sense. Whatever you're going to do, it's not going to make sense. You can come up with all the theories and be like, oh, it's because Apple launched this new iPhone, people didn't like it, so their sales collapsed. It's like, no, dude, what? That doesn't make any sense. That's not what happened at all. You don't have any on the ground context, right? So that's obviously a ridiculous example, but stuff like that happens all the time, right? Where you need to have the on the floor context as to like what's happening and look at the right data to drive the right conclusions. Because the one thing worse than not looking at data, you know, is looking at the wrong data and then driving the wrong conclusions off of that, and then just being very confident because you feel like you looked at the data. Like, oh, I looked at the data, so my conclusion is that, you know, we're gonna just stop selling all these things because they're not profitable. But then you didn't know that like people that walk in, they walk in asking for these things and they buy more profitable stuff. If you cut these things, we lose everything. Like we're not going to sell anything, right? So as like an example, but you just looked at data and you're like, how can I make the company more profitable? Cut these things, and then next thing you know it, if you just asked anybody, they would have told you that doesn't make any sense because every customer walks in asking for item one, and then they buy two, three, and four, which are profitable, but they never would have if you didn't have item. So, you know, that's just two really important misconceptions that I wanted to talk about on the data and technology side that we see a lot, and no org is immune from that. You know, even to a really big organization.
I never judge any book by its cover, and there are big companies. You think they might have, you know, all, you know, whole marketing department and social media and all this stuff, and they don't know what they're doing. And then you go, these little guys, they've got a very small team and they're just rocking and rolling because they're looking at the data correctly. They're applying the right things, and they're making mistakes, but they're learning from them. That's the biggest thing. You're going to make mistakes. It's a digital world. You're going to make mistakes. You got to learn from them. You just can't keep your blinders on. And, you know, listen, I make mistakes every day. You know, I mean, it took me forever to learn some of the stuff that I'm doing, but you know what? They told me 20% selling, 80% practice, repetition, and you'll learn, you know, and then once you've learned it, it is, I'm telling you, it's mind blowing. And because data is just unbelievable, I can't get enough of it. So if someone was out there on Commercial Construction Coffee Talk and they wanted to reach out to you to bounce some, you know, data or consulting questions, you know, in a construction,
absolutely,
how would they reach out to you?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and that's kind of going into your other thing, if you know, products and services and stuff like that. I mean, I think the best thing is, since, you know, we're service based and we're doing a lot of things, and you might need help with a lot of different things here. So I'm going to offer to people on this show, this podcast, like, look, email us at hello@pushanalytics.com and just put in the title that you came from commercial construction, so that way the team knows to route it. And we'll get scheduled with you a consultation call to discuss your business, and like, hey, we bounce ideas if you want to see like, hey, you need help with process with your CRM, you want to incorporate a CRM. I think that's a really big one, and you know, we can really help with that. But you know, you want to use some data that you already have, whatever it is. You want to run ads, give us a shout out. Put in the title again, commercial construction consultation, and just give us an email, and we'll get a consult going.
Okay, so there you got hello at Push Analytics. Put in commercial. If you want to put CCCT, because that's the name of our show, Commercial Construction Coffee Talk, they'll know who it is, and Moustafa and his team we'll get back to you. If there's someone out there that wants to reach out to me, you can reach me at davidc@ccr-mag.com. Listen, the way that this gentleman got on the thing, his publicist sent me a press release. I looked at it. I was like, oh, cool. I'm a data guy. I want to talk to another data guy. You know, I have other podcasters on my thing. If you don't send me something, I can't. I know you don't like me when I say this, but it's like playing the lottery. If you don't buy a ticket, you can't win. You don't send me something, I can't look at it. I got plenty. It's very tough getting in the magazine, but I got plenty of platforms that we can put this on. I just hired a person to take all my posting off because I was just spending way too much time, and I want to spend my other time, you know, with integration and all this other stuff. And but we go back to you. You know, my TAT, that's turnaround time, you know, it's probably about 48 to 72 hours. We get it. You send me something, could be a charity golf tournament, new product, personnel announcement, anniversary, whatever. Send it to me. Let me be the judge. And we post it. We say in the URL, we ask you to, share it. It's good for our SEO, which is search engine optimization, for those that, know what that means. It's very, very important, SEO, if you want to be found, on the web. And The bottom line is we like looking at everything. Before the roller coaster started, I just put construction stuff up on my site. Now I put all sorts of stuff. How to buy a smartphone? What's the best car insurance? How do you buy the nice grill? How do you buy hair extensions? Half my circulation is female. If you're a guy, maybe you want to wear hair extensions. I don't know. All these people are crazy these days. One day they're a guy, one day they're a girl. Bottom line is I put that stuff on there because there's more to life than just work. And so we put all that stuff out there for you. So send it to us. We'll look at it and I'll actually come back to you, So
Absolutely. And
go ahead.
no, I was gonna throw in. I made an offer to the audience. You made an offer to the audience, and I have an offer for you and the audience, David. So if anybody, I know we talked broadly here today. If anybody wants, like, hey, we really want to zoom in specifically and talk about like CRMs and how we can use that in a construction business, or we want to talk about like this concept. This occurred to me when you said SEO, but how we can talk about this concept, and we can do something like that. People kind of express interest, like, hey, focus on this topic that we'd really like to zoom into. Be happy to do that as well.
Yeah. So, final thoughts. If you had one positive thought or phrase that you wanted to leave with our listeners before we end our episode here, what would it be? Sorry to put you on the spot.
No, you're good. I mean, I have a lot of positive thoughts and phrases, but what's the one that I really want to share? I mean, I think the important thing is to always be forward looking. I mean, that's kind of how I've lived my life, and ever since I started doing that, that's been like life changing. Like, right, always be forward looking. And that doesn't mean ignoring the past either. So it means taking the past and learning from it and seeing how you can apply that lesson, looking forward, right? So I mean, they always say, "Don't cry over spilt milk," but that's kind of like really only half of it, right? So okay, don't cry, but you also don't just leave it on the floor and walk away. I mean, you clean the milk, you figure out why the milk got spilled, and you say, "Hey, what can we do to make sure that the milk doesn't get spilled next time?" Right? So, and how can we use this to like drive improvement? So you should be like that with your personal life, but you should also be like that with your business life as well. As far as like, okay, hey, wait, well, we weren't doing this or we weren't doing this. I mean, we talked a lot about like technology or whatever. Maybe you're watching this. Maybe you're like, man, I didn't do any of that in 2020 or 2019, and I'm behind. Don't just sit there and look backwards, right? It's like, okay, like, well, now I know what I didn't do. Now I know what I can be doing. How do I move forward? And I think that's like really, really important in both personal and professional life. And I tell this to my family, I tell it to my friends, I tell this to whoever. And it's helped me a lot since I started doing that a while back, but it helped me a lot since I started doing that tremendously.
I'm going to bridge on this. If I was going to leave that comment, I'm going to bridge on Mustafa's point there is that, it's never too late to do something. And if you start it a year later, you're going to be glad you did. Also, it's not what you don't have, it's what you do with what you have. And that goes with anything. So, make the plunge, learn, and you can look back and, God, I'm glad I did that, versus saying, I wish I would have done that. Action, call to action, do it, decide, succeed, repeat. All right. So that's where I'm coming from. As we close out here, a couple things. First of all, hit the like button so we could get our conversation out there on the web, so people can find out about push analytics. We're trying to you got to deal with the algorithms on YouTube and stuff. And if you're on a construction site out there, number one, be safe. Okay, we want you to get home and be able to do it all over again the following day. And listen, it's still really hot, okay? Even though the fall season's coming and it's almost the end of the year, it's still really hot out there. So if you're on the construction site, drink lots of water. Put some of those electrolytes in your water bottle, okay? We don't want you getting hydrated. You get headaches, and that's when accidents happen. So once you get home at night, see your family and your kids so you can get up and do it the next day and stay hydrated. Very, very important. So, Mustafa, enjoy the Outer Banks in North Carolina, for your, the last couple of days at the Airbnb there. And I'm sure it's beautiful. And, like I said, I knew Wilmington, Wrightsville Beach and all that. So it's and if anybody hasn't gotten down there to the Outer Banks or Wilmington or the beaches in North Carolina, they are beautiful. Okay.
They are.
It's an awesome place to go. Really nice people, and you're just kind of getting into the South and the hospitality. So if it's on a bucket list thing, check it out. I like Wrightsville Beach, but there's plenty of other ones that are out there. So Mustafa, say goodbye from the Outer Banks.
See you guys later. I'll
And
see you
I'm
at the
gonna
beach if you're there.
Yeah, and I'm going to sign off from Sugar Hill, just below the Beaufort Dam on Lake Lanier. It's got about 600 miles of coastline, and I think it's almost time to get out on the boat here tonight and take a ride. So anyway, to all you out there, tomorrow's TGIF. Enjoy the weekend, recharge your battery, clear your mindset, stay positive, get all those, don't have negativity. It's not worth it. Get rid of it. Surround yourself with positive people, man. You're going to make your life so much happier, and smile, have fun. If you don't like what you're doing, go do something else. There's plenty of things going out there that you can do. Okay. Because life is short. Got to make the best of it. So with that said, Moustafa, I look forward to seeing you in person. No fist pumps. I'm going to shake your hand. And I got my event coming up in New York on September 28th in the city. It's our facilities construction meet and greet, noon to 4 at Penthouse 45. And actually, I've got my project management software gig coming up in my next issue. So I'll send you an email with that link so you can get your company listed. It's free editorially. Just all you have to do is fill out the form and I'll confirm receipt and I'll get you in the magazine. So with that said, we will see you all next time on another episode of Commercial Construction Coffee Talk. And like I said, be safe out there. Moustafa, thank you so much for finding the time. You're the man. All right.
See ya. You got it. Bye-bye.
All right, man. Ciao.